Hello and welcome to Chapter 2 of Greek for the Rest of Us. Today we are going to be looking at the Greek alphabet. Just briefly before we jump into the Greek alphabet, this is talking about transliteration in the second column here. A transliteration is the equivalent of a letter in another language based on its sound. And we have some words that are transliterations of Greek words. Baptism is an example of that. Baptism is from the Greek word baptizo. So there's really just the sounds that are being carried over. The same thing's true when you have an alphabet where you include a transliteration next to the actual alphabet itself. So on the left you have the names of the letters, then we have a transliteration of those letters, and then the column right here is going to be the letters themselves. This is the capital version of those, and then this is going to be the sound of those words, and then sound in a word. All right, so let's go through the alphabet in Greek. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. All right, let's work through these briefly and make a few comments on each of them. So first, we have alpha, as we already saw. This is what capital alpha looks like. It's going to be the a sound of father, alpha. Beta is going to be very similar to our letter A, both in lowercase and uppercase. And it's going to be the simple B as in Bible. Gamma is going to be, looks a little bit like an English Y. It's not. It's a little bit down and kind of looped back is how you would draw a gamma. And that's G as in gone. Delta, D as in dog. This is the capital version of that. Looks like a triangle. Epsilon looks like a backwards 3, and it's the E sound is in, or the E sound is in met, epsilon. Zeta is right here, and it has a slight, technically a slight, like a dental sound at the beginning, like t. Zeta. So there's a little bit more of a pop there than just a simple z. It's more of a zeta. Eta here is going to be, it's going to look like the capital H, and it's going to be the kind of the E sound in obey, eta. And then theta is going to be our TH sound, as in thing. Iota, you're going to draw just a simple, do not put a dot on the top of it like our English I. That would not be correct. And the iota has the I sound of intrigue. And actually there's two different versions of it, so it's actually both the I and the E, intrigue. Both can come out in the iota letter. Kappa is going to be very similar to our letter K, and it's going to function similarly also. Lambda, it's a very pretty letter with a flowing down and then the cross there. The capital looks like our letter A without the center piece in the middle. Simple L sound is in law. Mu is going to look like a U with a tail on the front. The capital looks just like the letter M though. Nu looks like our letter V, but it's a letter pronounced like N as in new. Xi is going to be kind of our X sound as in axiom. Omicron sounds like our O as in not. P, don't be confused here. This is technically pronounced as you would say this letter P. As English speakers, we're used to calling this pi, but this is really P. Capital P looks like this, and then it looks just like our English P, as in peach. Rho, don't get confused. This is not a letter P. We just looked at P. So rho is going to have, it's going to look very much like our capital P. And then the lowercase is going to have kind of that smooth rounding right here is going to be smooth. And then sigma, there are two forms of sigma. There is the sigma that you would encounter in the middle of a word, which is at the beginning or in the middle. And then at the end of a word, you would encounter the sigma with a tail at the bottom of it. So this is going to be kind of your normal, and then this would be your final form of sigma. And then the capital sigma is looking like that. And that would be the same whether it's at the beginning or the end or the middle of a word. This would be the S sound in sit. Tau looks just like our T with a little bit of a loop at the bottom. Capital T looks the same, T as in talk. Upsilon, capital is going to look like our capital Y. It's going to be similar to a German umlaut. So it's going to have a U sound to it. Upsilon. Phi is going to be kind of our PH, f, as in phone. You'll notice that there's not another equivalent to F, the letter F. So this is kind of where we get that sound from. It'd be phi. Ki is going to be the k sound as in lach with a little bit less guttural to it. So ki. And then there's this letter, which is very important, psi. And you'll notice in the third edition, as of this video, third edition of Greek for the Rest of Us accidentally excluded this letter. So make special note that this is a Greek letter and it appears with regularity. So know psi, memorize psi, and don't just follow the textbook on that page because you'll miss a letter of the alphabet. This is the psi sound that makes that comes out at the end of lips. So it kind of has a pop to it, like lips, ps, ps. And then omega is going to be the last letter of the Greek alphabet. Lowercase omega looks similar to our W, and then the uppercase there. It's going to be the long O sound, as in tone. Now, it is very important to at least learn the lowercase letters of the Greek alphabet. The uppercase, you can learn them as you have opportunity, but to at least learn the lowercase is going to be very important. It's going to help you make progress in other areas, so I highly commend learning those quickly. All right, now we will jump over to discussing the vowels. There are vowels. There are 7 of them: alpha, epsilon, eta, iota, omicron, upsilon, and omega. So we'll go back through and just highlight where those are so that you can remember your vowels. That is alpha, epsilon, iota, omicron. Skip the eta. Easy to skip because it looks like an English N. Omicron and omega. I missed upsilon too. There we go. So there's your 7 vowels highlighted. The rest are all consonants. They operate consonantally. As we've already talked about, sigma has 2 forms. So just keep those 2 forms of sigma in mind. Learn both of them. And then he illustrates that word, apostolos. Apostolos has both forms of sigma in it. So there's the S sound in the middle, apos, and then at the end, apostolos. So again, that just illustrates the importance of recognizing that there's both functioning there, or showing up there. Another thing to note is the gamma nasals. So the gamma nasals are the letter G, or gamma, that has the hard G sound, as in get. But there's 4 letters that when it's nearby, it does a little bit different. behavior with. Those are the gamma, the kappa, the chi, and the xi. So when it's immediately followed by those letters, it's going to be pronounced as an N. So the gamma, when followed by that, becomes an N sound. So that first gamma in the word angels, for example, angelos, this one preserves the G sound, but this one becomes an N sound. So anytime that this second letter is any one of these letters, you're going to get that N sound in the first position. So it's called the gamma nasal, and there's going to be a number of words that show up that way, and you'll usually notice it when you try to pronounce the word. So I wouldn't actually require you to memorize those, but when you try to pronounce the word, you'll realize probably quickly that you can't really naturally pronounce it well. So in those cases, the gamma is pronounced with the N sound. Okay, so iota subscript. So the iota, which is kind of like our English I, is sometimes written under the vowels alpha, eta, and omega. So as you can see here, alpha, eta, and omega, and this little tiny line hiding underneath is actually an iota. So if you write an alpha, write an eta, or an omega, it can hide underneath there. So the iota is not pronounced. So when that shows up, it's not pronounced, but it does still convey some important grammatical significance. So it, as I say, it does affect the word's meaning. So not the pronunciation, but it does affect the word's meaning. It normally is not transliterated, so it's not typically going to show up if someone's trying to write a Greek word with the English-sounding words, again, because a transliteration is going off of, if we remember from the beginning, sound. So because transliteration is going off of sound, the iota is typically not going to get carried over. The vowel combination, so these iota subscript vowels are called improper diphthongs. We'll get into this when we get to pronunciation, but a diphthong is when two vowels that are next to each other can be pronounced together. So think of our English word though. In that case, we don't pronounce the OU as two distinct words. We pronounce them together, or two distinct letters, we pronounce them together as one sound. So that's called a diphthong. And in the case of these letters, these are called improper diphthongs. So they're pronounced together, but technically it's the I that just doesn't get pronounced that allows them to be pronounced together. All right. So capital letters in Greek. I know I said you don't have to focus on memorizing them, but the Greek New Testament was originally written in all capital letters. Think about that for a moment. Sometimes there's debate about whether or not we should capitalize certain letters, certain names. In the original Greek manuscripts, the autographs, as they're called, those that were written directly by the authors of Scripture, it was written in all capital letters. And on top of that, it was written without punctuation, without spaces between the words. So, for example, John 1:1, the beginning of John 1:1, would have looked like this. I don't know about you, but that is a little bit hard to decipher. And it's important to note that one of the key clues for why they could get away with this is that all Greek words end in either vowels, so endings for Greek words, Koine Greek, endings are either vowels or sigma, which, of course, if it's ending, is going to be this form of sigma, nu, So the fact that all Greek letters end in sigma, nu, or rho give helpful clues when you're thinking through how to break down a word. So, or again, vowels. So when you think about the fact that the words were initially not broken up by spaces, that means that you can identify a nu. This is a vowel. Another nu. And then another vowel. And then this is the sigma. So the way that this looks in our Bibles today, as we look at Greek translations, we're going to see the N, Arche, He, Ein, Ha, Lagos. So much more easy to process once there's some spacing in there and some punctuation, which we greatly appreciate. So some things to note as you get ready to work through the lesson homework. At the end, after you've worked through it, we'll work through those questions. But for the quiz, be able to reproduce the Greek alphabet, specifically the lowercase letters, and to make sure that they're in order. Those two things alone, being able to know the lowercase letters and in order, is going to be critical for using lexicons, which are how you're going to look up words. So you have to be able to know the lowercase letters, at least, and you have to be able to know what order they're in. And then also be able to identify the names of the letters. If we're not able to identify the names of the letters, we won't be able to talk about the words. So be ready to identify the names of the letter, and then also know which letters take an iota subscript. So be able to know that alpha, eta, and omicron all take iota subscripts. And a little trick for you to remember that is if you can remember your 7 vowels, the way I remember that is I picture the little iota being like a little fishy that is looking for a place to hide, and the letters that have a smooth bottom he can't hide under, so epsilon's out because it has that smooth underside. Iota's out because it's rounded. Omicron's out. Upsilon's out, so he's left with omega, eta, and alpha. Kind of a silly way that I remember which letters the iota can go underneath. All right, that's it.